All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the council meeting, Monday, September 11th, 2023. Welcome council, staff, and the members in the audience and the viewers at home. Could you please rise while we sing O Canada? Thank you. Thank you very much. Please remain standing. Today, we recognize and honor all those who were affected by the tragedy of September 11th, 2001. We honor the bravery and memory of those we lost, the first responders who served that day, and we stand in strength with those who were and continue to be impacted by the unspeakable violence of that day. May we take from this tragedy the value of life and love, and may the acts of kindness that came from this unthinkable always speak the loudest. So a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. Please be seated. At the town of New Tecumseth, we acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples, specifically the Ojibwe, the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. New Tecumseth is covered by the Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty No. 18, signed on October 17, 1818, with the Chippewa Nation. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people and accept our responsibility to honor all our relations and move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Thank you. I'm going to look to council. Are there any awards and recognitions? Councillor Bess.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to let everyone know to maybe not travel into Ward 5 very often, especially out in the rural area, that on September the 1st, the new 12th line bridge opened. This bridge is located just east of the 10 Side Road, past the old Tech North Public School. I just want to thank the local residents for their patience while they were inconvenienced during the demolition and the new construction of the bridge and the roadway. And I also want to thank CAO Parkin, GM Hoppy, Director Vatry, and their staff for the excellent execution of this project. So, based on previous reports I've gone through, the bridge was completed both on time and on budget. So thank you very much, staff, and thank you, residents, for your patience.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bess. Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to let everyone know that next week is Legion Week, where we reflect on our veterans and what we owe them for our freedom today. And thank you.
No, you're welcome, Councillor Masters. And just so everybody knows that Monday at noon, we will be raising the Legion flag at Town Hall here, and we'll be doing a proclamation, and everybody's welcome to attend. Are there any other awards and recognitions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Going on to confirmation of the agenda, I'm going to look to the clerk to identify any items to add or delete to the agenda, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have a deputation request from Sarah Betts, who is the Simcoe County District School Board Trustee, And that is with respect to item CW52.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a procedural bylaw. In order for that deputation to come forward, it requires unanimous consent of council. So council, all those in favor of hearing the deputation from our school board trustee? And that's carried. Thank you. So we will add that to the agenda. So Madam Clerk, if that's all, I'm going to ask for a motion, be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting held on September 11th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Jacks, Councillor Masters, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, council. Disclosures of pecuniary interest. Any council members have any pecuniary interest they'd like to declare? Councillor Rappin, please.
I guess I'm declaring on CW5 too.
Thank you, councillor, and that's duly noted in the minutes. Are there any other items of pecuniary interest for members of council? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on to the adoption of council minutes. A motion, please, be it resolved that the minutes of the council meeting and the special council meeting dated August 28, 2023, both open and closed, be adopted as circulated. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, Councillor Gabrick, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, council. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. I'll look to the clerk to identify items for separate discussion and the reason thereof. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a deputation this evening from Candace Gordon, Shift, fundraising proposal plows. R-2, Town Hall Project Status Report number 13, staff required direction. R-3, Hillcrest Park Off-Leash Dog Park Update, staff required direction. CW52, potential location at Sir Frederick Banting Homestead for replacement of Banting Memorial High School. There's a pecuniary interest declared, and we also have a deputation. And lastly, CS1, citizen appointment for Traffic Advisory Committee, staff required direction. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I'm going to look to council now to identify items for separate discussion that haven't already been polled. I'm not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Councillor Foster, my apologies.
D1, please.
Deputation 1, thank you. Then we go to the members of the public to identify items for separate discussion on the section reports for information or immediate discussion. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So now I'm going to go to the clerk to summarize all items identified for separate discussion, please.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. D-1, Candace Gordon, Shift, fundraising proposal plows. R-2, Town Hall Project Status Report number 13, staff required direction. R-3, Hillcrest Park Off-Leash Dog Park Update number 2, staff required direction. CW52, potential location at Sir Frederick Banting Homestead for replacement of Banting Memorial High School. There's a pecuniary interest declared, and we also have a deputation. And lastly, CS1, citizen appointment for Traffic Advisory Committee, staff required direction. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have a motion now, be it resolved that items CW1 to CW5 on the Committee of the Whole meeting report dated August 28, 2023, including additional information memorandums, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved, and the recommendations therein be adopted. And further, that communication items and any other item listed on the council meeting agenda dated September 11th, 2023, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be received and are adopted. The Deputy Mayor, you'll move that? Sure. Thank you. And Councillor Cox, you'll second that? Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Deputations requiring statutory of public meetings. We don't have any listed tonight. Deputations relating to new matters. Candace Gordon Shift for a fundraising proposal. Are you with us tonight? There you are. You want to come up to the podium, please? Bless you. All right, Candace, so go ahead. We have our deputations for 7 minutes, so the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. So I'm from SHIFT, Support and Hope for Individuals and Families Today. I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with us at this point. So what we wanted to propose was A snowplow auction. It's a great way for awareness, but overall, the community members will bid on eligible snowplows, whether it be one or more. A family-friendly name, of course. It would be proposed to auction off one or more plows. It can be done using magnetic signage on the plows. So what we do is it's removable, it's temporary, it can be changed year over year, and it just says something different. And it gives people a chance to be a part of the community and do something exciting. The benefits are that it also promotes awareness for the town. There's media coverage, there's community engagement, fundraising for a good cause. The proceeds raised do help support SHIFT and the programs and services. Now that we've moved to year-round operations, finding funds is always something we're intrigued and interested in doing, as it's much-needed dollars. So there is a couple options on how it could work. One is like a blind bid. People would submit a bid, put in their information, drop it into boxes. That we'd have available at local stores. In event that there's a tie, we could contact the winners and ask them if they want to make an additional bid. Option 2 is what we were more so thinking, is it would be a ballot, like a raffle, set at like $5, $10, or booklets. They could be sold at various locations as well, and upcoming events that we do. And the winning persons will be drawn at random. There is a rough outline that you would have received. We're open to interpretation and negotiations. We were hoping for a 3-year commitment, as we've noticed year 1's always the experimental year and not a lot comes from it. Year 2 is more beneficial, and year 3 is when you see the profits. And then just if it's something that the city likes, they could continue it year after year and bring on more charities, bring us back, and just something that could be ongoing. That's it.
No, it's great. It's one of the deputy mayor and I were talking about it today, and we were looking at the one in Barrie, and they had a lot of fun when they were doing theirs too. So if there's any questions or comments of the presenter, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. First of all, thanks for your deputation. And second of all, I always admire creativity, because raising funds is tough. But to the business aspect of it and the town's aspect, we always talk about staying in our lane as a municipality and trying to stay focused on what our core services are. So, as we all know, these social services come under the county umbrella, with which we pay money into the county. Have you approached the county with this idea?
Not that I'm aware of. I was elected to come last minute. This was something that was in the works before I started with SHIFT, but to the best of my knowledge, no, it hasn't been fully approached anywhere else. This is step 1 for us right now.
Okay, so you drew the short straw. Thank you very much. That was my first question. I have a couple other comments, but I would put forth a motion that we receive the deputation, but that maybe SHIFT could provide some additional information, and also the staff could give us their thoughts on this, because there is the issue of staff time, taxpayers' dollars, and everything else. So I think this requires a bit more discussion. So I would respectfully say thank you for your submission, and I would put that out there for council's consideration.
Are there any other comments or questions from the presenter? Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
Thank you. I also wanted to commend your creativity. I thought this was a really fun idea. My question is, you made reference that it's been done in Barrie. Is this something that's been done other places that you know of?
So as far as I know, do you want me to answer that right now? Okay, so as far as I know, Edmonton, I think, started it, perhaps. But there is a lot of cities that have taken it on. However, this would be one of only a few that have done it as a spin-off, as a fundraiser. Theirs was more for city promotion, and it was just a free thing to do. And since it hasn't been done too much in these areas, we thought it'd be a good fundraising opportunity as well, that eventually could be year over year benefit other social service agencies too.
So, I mean, a while back I saw there was some fun article about a place in Scotland where they had all these fun named snowplows, and you could track your plow.
Yep.
And see where Blizzard was, or McPlowy. And anyways, I thought that was super fun, and so I'm kind of excited by this idea, and I hope that the report that comes back from staff says that it won't cost us anything.
Councillor Robin?
Yeah, great idea. I was going to add to it for you. And so moving forward, if the sign that goes on the truck, on the plow, doesn't have anything that doesn't say Town of New Tecumseh on it or something like that, then the winner at the end of the winter can have that magnet and they can put it on their own car and drive around with it as a feather in their cap as, hey, I was the winner that year and now my car is called McPlowy. But not drive it as a Town of New Tecumseh car or anything like that. That's why I'd say, depending on what you put your signage on it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? So we have a motion out there that, if I summarize correctly, Councillor Foster, be resolved that the deputation of Candace Gordon Shipp be received and that staff provide a report back on the fundraising opportunities. I looked at the CO. He agrees. Deputy Mayor, would you second that? Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much for coming up. I mean, you certainly piqued everybody's interest. And you actually can have a lot of fun with it, so and raise funds too and create awareness. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to item next on the council agenda is R2. And that's the Town Hall Project Status Report number 13. It's additional information memorandum by the Director of Infrastructure and Development. So I believe there's two options there. Is there any comments or questions in regards to the additional information on the report? Oh, Councillor Jacks, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to CAO Parkin and staff. I was just curious, under the alternative options, it notes that an option for Council's consideration is to defer the decision of FF&E until the remote working policy is completed. Do we have a time estimate for when that policy will be completed and implemented? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd look to the CO to direct it. Or answer. Sorry, Mr. CO.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through you to Councillor Jackson, members of council. The remote or flexible working arrangements policy report and policy to council, I'm anticipating wrapping it up within the next month or so. I hope to have it to council a little earlier in the year, but with a number of issues being handled and some vacancies here and there, it's been delayed a bit. But with respect to its implementation, obviously that's council's prerogative as to what direction it takes. But I'm hoping to have it to council within the next month or two at the very latest.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead. Sir?
Second question, unrelated, but thank you for that information, CAO. Actually, I'm going to withdraw. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Are there any other comments or questions in regards to Councillor Foster, please?
And thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through you to the CAO or Director Hoppy. First of all, thank you, Director Hoppy, for the conversation last week and the further information. What when you read this report and you look at everything else and the bouncing ball that is the dates for completion of this project, you look now and say, okay, it's been put forth to October 31st with 4 to 6 weeks after the fact for the occupancy or for additional work to get occupancy, which then would put you to December 15th, which is then right on the heels of Christmas. And so when I think in my mind logically is that if that was the final date and that was the date of occupancy, and I believe in the last report it said that the furniture is about 8 weeks away, or which is about 2 months. So you would back it up from December, which would be mid-October. We don't have a flexible workplace policy, so the information I think is excellent, but you gave one of the options to defer this. So to me, is that, looking at it logically, is that if the move were to happen over the Christmas break, that would be efficient, that would have cost savings attached to it. And now who knows if it's workable. I mean, we thought back in May that we would be in August and September, but not to belabor those topics. So I would respectfully suggest that until we have a clearer vision of the workplace policy, until we have some further definition, I think the information you've given is excellent and it gives us a clear picture. But if we still had another month or so to refine that, to make sure that any decision we were making was buying exactly the right furniture, not overbuying, not underbuying, and making sure we were only doing it once. I might put that out there as the preferred suggestion, if all what I've just said is workable to the staff.
Thank you for that. And the general manager shaking his head yes. So, so then I would assume, Councillor Foster, then you would put forward the motion. Another option for council to consider is to defer decision on FF&E until the remote working policy is completed. Second by Deputy Mayor. Is there any other comments? Sorry, Councillor Foster. I was going to come back to you to make sure I captured it all. I was just seeing if there's any other comments or questions from members of staff, our council.
I think I'd like the motion to be a little bit more detailed.
100%. We can
So
refine it.
another option for council to consider is to defer decision on FF&E until the remote working policy is completed, until we have a defined move-in date, with Christmas being a logical option. Just something that's a little bit more encapsulating that gives us something more concrete to look at, if I could.
Yep, please, makes sense. I'll just look to the clerk to advise when she's captured that motion. Sure, we'll go ahead now, Councillor Masters, and allow the clerk an extra moment.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff. I noticed on the change orders there, Director Hoppy, that there was a kind of a 50-50 suggestion that that's probably the way it's going to go. Do you think that's relatively accurate? Or?
GM?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Masters, that's a very difficult question.
Yeah, I know.
We are hopeful. The balance in that account, basically, all of those change orders encapsulates approximately 5 or 6 items, and they've all been rejected by the cost consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking the position that a 50% resolution, would be something we would think is fair at this point, but that's ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look to the, sorry, Councillor Jacks?
Thank you. Through your worship to the staff. The substantial occupancy that is now estimated for October 31st, is that term the same? Is it encompassing the clearance from fire and servicing with regards to a safe environment to be on? Like I know the completion part of from a construction perspective typically is what is encompassed in substantial completion, but do we have a thought that there's going to be synergy between those two determining factors if humans can be on the property? Thank you.
I would look to the general manager.
Your Worship, I'm going to ask the manager of procurement to
Thank you.
weigh in on that, please.
Thank you, Manager.
Thank you, GM Hoppy, and thank you, Worship. Through you, Worship. Yes, however, we would want to look at what was deficient at that point. You may remember the description of substantial completion requires there be no more than 3% outstanding works and deficiencies. So if there were more than that, we would then again have to move that substantial date. But should that not happen, then yes, the commissioning would be done. We would have final sign-off to get occupancy thereafter.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Jacks? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. Councillor Foster, and then I'll go to the clerk for the motion.
Thank you. If I could, on the heels of what Councillor Jacks has asked, those two dates, substantial completion and occupancy, are very different dates. Substantial completion deals with the 3% issue that you refer to. It also refers to that the building is designed for its intended use. Occupancy is something that requires verification by third-party verifiers with fire alarm, with all life safety services. It deals with the parking lot conditions. It deals with access and egress. And so to expand on what Councillor Jacks has asked, I think that there needs to be a definite understanding that is a substantial part could be completed, but occupancy could fall as another deficient number for literally months. So I think that some of the information related to occupancy is imperative into these decisions, because if they don't align, I've seen buildings that have substantial and occupancy doesn't happen. I mean, the fire chief might have comments because our building department would be involved in that. So I think the information related to third-party verification and their Matheson's internal obligations is an important part of that discussion for us to clearly understand dates.
No, thank you for those comments. Okay, I'm going to go to the clerk now, if you'd like to, are you able to? Thank you.
Be resolved that report number PRC 2023-25 be received, and further that the additional information memorandum from GM of Infrastructure and Development dated September 11, 2023 be received, and further that the FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, funding requests be deferred pending completion of the remote working policy and confirmed date for staff to move into the town hall.
I'll look to Councillor Foster.
If through you, Mayor Norcross, I would respectfully suggest that we also, this is dependent on understanding a clear definition of not just substantial but occupancy, because that will play into that entire conversation. Without that in the motion, it's really useless.
Oh, understood.
Thank you.
So I'll go back to the clerk. Could you, and I'll just give you a moment.
So I'll just read the last part again. So, and further that the FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment funding requests be deferred pending completion of the remote working policy. Sorry, just 2 seconds here. And that the occupancy, confirmed definition of occupancy. Sorry, I had it and now I've just lost it.
Would you like me to read it again?
Sure, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, if you add that clarity be established to determine exactly the occupancy date and exactly the substantial completion
Perfect.
date.
Thank you, Councillor Foster.
No, thank you.
Are we good, Madam Clerk? Yes. Okay, thank you. So Councillor Foster, you were moving that. Deputy Mayor, you were seconding that. Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to item R3, the Hillcrest Park Off-Leash Dog Park, update number 2. I'm going to look to Councillor Rappin, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I've been looking forward to this for a year, and here we are. Thank you to the people in the audience for coming and hearing what's about to be said, and hopefully we can come up with a decision. Based on the survey results, discussions with staff and council, as well as conversations with several residents on both sides of the dog park issue, we are at a point in the road where we need to make a decision and live with it. This decision isn't taken lightly, and I just want to make sure people didn't know that there were several things that were behind the scenes that you may not have known were happening. We had Canine Control, or I don't know if we had it, but I know Canine Control did a blitz 3 times a day for a week or two throughout the last months. Bylaw has gone by consistently. I know several members of council have gone by more than once. I know also that, for me anyway, that I've been involved in meetings and discussions with other towns and cities, controllers of dog parks. For example, Vaughan, where they have 13 dog parks, if I remember correctly, and there was 2 other councillors, and they're welcome to say that they were there. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, that were in that meeting as well. If I could trouble you to put the four options up. I'll speak to all 4 options. Number 4, removal and getting rid of it. I can only speak as myself. So if council wants to talk to it later, then they're welcome to. That's not an option in my book, okay? So to completely get rid, you can't get rid of something that you've given people and then you've taken away. We can't do that. The new location, which was the Banting Homestead, I don't see that as an option either. I'm noticing that council's having several discussions on moving a high school to the Banting Homestead, so to move a dog park there as well. But once again, council can speak to it if they disagree with me. And then the option, oh, sorry, those weren't the options I meant, but that's fine. Or no, I guess it is. And then option one is to leave it as it is, and I don't see that as an option either. Because, like, I've been there, and it's noisy, it's loud. And so I'm going to be proposing option two, but with option two, I'm going to be proposing that option two needs to mitigate the impact that it has on the surrounding residents. So we need to decide on the things that are in option two. If it's a money thing with members of council, then we need to look at the things that are there and pick the ones that are going to mitigate the sound, the smells, whatever it is, the things that are impacting the surrounding residents. So that is my motion, is that we take option two in some form or other. Well, just looking at it, no water fountain, no water service, we can ditch those, but we've got to do sound barriers. I'm not sure what is the fencing, Mr. McKay, is the fencing, does that mean the visual barrier fencing? Is that what that means? Sorry, through you, Mayor, to...
No, that's fine. I'll look to Manager McKeag. Could you explain what the fencing for $35,000 is, please?
I'll reiterate it.
Through you, Mayor Norcross. The fencing was option two to move the current dog park north 13 meters.
Okay.
So we could remove the fencing then?
It would be a relocation of the fencing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so well, I've got you on mic, then I'll just go through, just so we're all clear on them. So fencing, and that's the movement, so that doesn't necessarily need to be mitigated. So the concrete work, can you explain that, sir?
Manager?
Through Mayor Norcross, that would be to create new pads and relocate the current pad that's in there now.
Because we've shifted it?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so then parking, well, that's actually not a bad price on parking. I thought it would be a lot higher. What, could you explain the parking to us, through the mayor to?
That's okay.
Could you explain
Manager
what the
McKay?
parking would look like?
Through you, Mayor Norcross, the parking was just to add a couple additional angle parking. It would be a gravel lot, just off the
Okay.
roadside.
Great. And then the sound barriers, can you give us an idea of what that would be?
Manager McKeag? I understand, Councilor Rappin, so
Sorry.
thank you. I'll help you out here.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, what we came up with was a berm and some trees.
So berms, right?
A small berm and some trees, correct?
Okay, I don't see on there, and I think it's a value, but if there's experts on it that say it's not a value, then I'll listen to them. But the actual visual barrier fencing so that the dogs can't see dogs on the other sides, both inside the small and large dog park and on the entire perimeter, because even there just the other day, the dogs are barking at each other as they come and go. It's not always just the dogs inside the park that are barking, so I would, even though I don't see it on the list, I'd like us to include that, unless there's an expert somewhere to tell me otherwise. So I guess I said I was taking option two, but I'm taking option one because we're not going to shift it, but we're going to take some of the things from option two. Forgive me for...
No, you're doing well,
Okay.
Councilor Rappin, so, because what I'm
Visual
hearing...
barriers up top.
No,
Sorry, I just saw visual. This is my first time seeing this, guys. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So what you're suggesting is council goes with option one, construct angled parking, visual barriers, sound barriers. I think that's it. And rules.
Yeah, we need
Signage.
We need to copy other dog parks in terms of our sign is this size, and I've gone to other dog parks and I've looked at them, and it's gigantic. And in bold is no barking, on like pretty well all of them, no barking, and it's.
No, but, sorry,
It's-
members, please, go ahead, Councilor
So,
Rappin.
like I've been saying from day one, that the people that are using dog park, we hope that they're self-policing. They've got to look after it and respect the neighborhood that they're in, and
No, understood.
you're not entitled to the space. It's a space we want everyone to use, and we've got to just be cognizant of, there's other people there as well. And I'm a teacher, so I know how to enforce this on a 6-year-old, but
No,
like
but-
a 25-year-old, I really don't know what to do. Sorry, there's better answers from other people on that.
No, so if I interpret correctly, the motion you're putting on the floor is that we go with option 1. That includes construct angled parking, visual barriers, sound barriers, rules, signage, enforcement, and any other aspects that our recreation department can come up with that will police the park better.
Yeah,
Does that summarize it?
That-
And then I can open it up
that's,
for discussion.
yeah, and then open up for discussion. Mine can change or whatever. There could be other ideas.
Okay, so that's the motion that Councillor Rappin has put on the floor. Is there any comments or questions in regards to that? Councillor Jacks, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to comment and share sentiment for a minute and perhaps offer council something for further consideration. I've been in a lot of dialogue about this, interestingly, because I'm not in Ward 1, not an Alliston resident, and don't use the dog park. I was moved, though, when there were deputations brought forward the last time this was brought to council, and there were members that were being directly impacted. And I was actually caught off guard sitting here in council at how emotional I became thinking about what would it be like if that was my house, and that was me experiencing that the dog park lit directly across from me. So I've carried that with me, along with a bit of frustration, just not truly understanding how we got to this position. But I do, I'm proud to be part of a council who is, at all attempts, trying not to look backward at decisions made in past term and say this is maybe not our fault, but it is our problem. And so what is the decision that we want to make to move forward? The third piece that I wanted to talk about, which really struck me when I was reading the report, is there are 4 options. I do feel, though, that it's responsible to look at each of those totals and add $75,000 to it, because we're already into this park for $75,000. So it's not just $15,000, it's $90,000. It's not that the most fiscally responsible looks like removing it, but that's $85,000 of waste. And waste in addition to the hard cost of material and labor to actually implement, the amount of time in salary and billable hours that has been put towards this project. So I'm at a really hard time reconciling the rational and logical decision, which in my mind is we look to mitigate some of the circumstances and variables for the least that are impacting the residents who are being directly affected by selecting the option that is closest to the most fiscally responsible, keeping in mind that we are looking at already a $75,000 spend on this park. And so to remove a service, as Chris said, and just say, well, we made a mistake, that happens, and there are beta testing on all sorts of things. But in the end, our choice and our opportunity to have sought out additional information about best practices for location and configuration, that existed in the past, and we did not exercise that option. So here we are, we've spent $75,000, now we're spending more. I'm struggling to wait to not factor in with significant weight the $75,000 that's already spent. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. So we do have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Rappin. Is there a seconder for that, Councillor? Well, Councillor Cox. Now I'm going to go to Councillor Biss. Comments, questions, please.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question through to Manager McKeag. Excuse me. Sound barriers on option number 1, 6,500, sound barriers on option 2, 10,000. Can you just explain to me what the difference between the two is, please?
Thank you. I'll go to Manager McKay, please.
Through Mayor Norcross to Councillor Biss. Through the council motion, option 1 was to investigate visual barriers and plantings, I believe, and then option 2, it was to, let's see here, install perimeter vegetation and investigate sound barriers and develop an enforcement plan. So that's just through what the recommendation was through council. So option 1 was just some tree plantings. Option 2 was a berm and tree plantings.
Councillor Biss.
Thank you, Worship. So through your worship to Councillor Rappin, when we're talking sound barriers in your solution, you're talking about the $10,000 sound barrier, not the 6,500 planting. Is that correct?
Councillor Rappin.
Through you to Councillor Biss, absolutely. So many people tell me, a tree's not going to do it. So, yes, berms.
Okay, so the motion is to go with the higher end sound barrier. Go with the 10,000, not the 6,500, just to clarify. And Councillor Cox, you're okay with that amendment to the motion? Thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Jacks, I see you 100%. Is there any other? I got good peripheral vision. Is there any other comments and questions from a member of council? And I will get back to you, Councillor Jacks, guaranteed. Councillor Gabrick, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the only thing worse than not dealing with the dog park would be to do it poorly. So obviously we need to take some attempt to correct the problem, and to Councillor Jacks's point, build in a contingency to make sure that the project is completed successfully and to everyone's best interest.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments, questions? So I'm going to go back to Councillor Jacks. You have the last word, and then I'll call the motion.
Thank you. If Councillor Rappin pleases, I was wondering if I could propose also a friendly amendment to the motion, an addendum to add to it that this council would like to direct staff to explore the best possible location for a community dog park. Something that we learned through meeting with the dog park specialist. I don't even know, I forgive me for not knowing his title, but very knowledgeable, who has run the program and sat as president of the board through Vaughan and Woodbridge and their entire circuit of dog parks. His observation to us was that what we built was we built a community dog park. No, we built a neighborhood dog park, but then invited the community to participate and interact with it. And if we in fact have a dedicated, in addition to or outside of just leasing the land off of Parsons, that's part of the Oedeker property, that's not official or designated, it's just more of an agreement. If we have a community park that perhaps will be identified in our master parks plan or recommendation in thereof, becomes part of a community hub that draws the majority of people that are looking to have that type of engagement and interaction, we can then leave Hillcrest to be quiet, walkable, and a neighborhood dog park, which would drastically reduce some of the noise disruption that the residents are experiencing.
Okay, so I understand where you're coming from there. You also would recommend that an alternate location in addition to be explored by members of staff. And I'm not sure, I was going to go, thanks for Steele. I was going to say we're also doing the master recreation plan. And I don't know if that would be a separate motion. So I'm going to go to the CAO, who's directed me to the GM. So I would look to the GM, please.
Your Worship, through you, if it assists council, certainly we can pick that up. I don't think it necessarily needs to be part of this motion, but we can certainly address what you're speaking of in the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. That will be before council in the next couple of months. I will also tell you, there is a fairly large dog park that has been built in the Phase 5 of the Treetop subdivision. It's not accessible to the public yet because the roads need to be built next to the flankage there. But we could provide some more detail just so council is aware. It's a fairly large, I don't have the figures in front of me today, but I can provide that to council. It's 4 or 5 acres, and it is in a fairly wooded, remote area. So,
Okay.
Thank you, GM Hoppy. We are aware. My concern is that the community that is living in Ward 1, the reality of them putting their dogs and driving to the Phase 5 of Treetops, maybe? Who am I? I don't know. The other question, though, that I have for you is respecting the position that that's something that could be provided to council, the consideration of best location for a future community dog park be part of the parks and open spaces. If that report is, you said that it's not something that has been investigated to date as part of the Parks and Open Spaces plan, and the Parks and Open Spaces plan will be to council within a couple of months. So that investigation and then the update to that plan would be done in a couple of months?
I'll look to the GM. So that was going to be my question. What was the timing of the report?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
yes, Your
GM.
Worship, and we could take that under direction to make sure that that detail is included.
Thank you very much. And Deputy Mayor, you had a question, please?
I did, through you, Mayor, to staff. Have we identified a funding source for this cost?
I'll look to the CAO, please.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through to the Deputy Mayor McClellan and members of council, yes, I would suggest the cash in lieu of Parkland Fund would be adequate for this.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. So if we could incorporate that into the motion, so I would look to the clerk. Oh, sorry, Councillor Biss.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship, to staff. So the 18.5 for the total, is this going to be for consideration the 2024 budget, or is this something that we've already budgeted for in 2023?
I would look to the CAO, please.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Biss and members of council, that is entirely in council's hands, Councillor Biss. If council wants us to move quickly on the solution, then I would suggest, as I mentioned previously, that the cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve would be adequate and could be used to fund this work to proceed as soon as we can move on it. Or council could ask that it be just included in the 2024 budget.
Oh, Councillor Biss.
Thank you, Worship. Another question, what kind of contingency should we add to the 18.5? Through your Worship, to CAO?
I will look to the CAO who will direct me or answer. Your choice, Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Biss and members of council. I'm trying to recall our capital project policy with our contingencies in mind. I don't believe the items that I'm looking at carry a large degree of risk or uncertainty, which I believe is some of the larger variables or factors that we consider when we suggest contingencies with our projects. So at 18.5, I would think 10% would be adequate, or we could, round off from there, but I don't think much more than that would be necessary.
Thank you for that, Mr. CAO. So we're good? Okay, so we'll do the 18.5 plus a 10% contingency. I would look to the clerk now to read the motion back, if you could.
So be it resolved that report number PRC 2023-26 be received, and further that staff be directed to proceed with option number 1 as outlined in this report to be funded from the cash in lieu of Parkland Fund, and further that staff be directed to establish and construct rules, signage, angled parking, visual barriers, higher end sound barriers, which are the berms, enforcement, and also establish a contingency in the amount of 10% for the project. And I believe Councillor Jack's amendment has just been taken as advisement now for staff, and it's not to be included in the motion.
Yes, I believe the general manager said he was taking direction from Councillor Jackson on that. So we have that moved by Councillor Rappin, seconded by Councillor Cox. Members, all those in favor, please. And that carries. Thank you very much, Council. That takes us to item CW52, potential location of Sir Frederick Banting Homestead for the replacement of Banting Memorial High School. We have the Public School Board Trustee Sarah Bites in attendance tonight. Sarah, you wanted to provide new information to Council. Would you like to come up to the podium, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I will get right to it. My name is Sarah Bites. I'm your trustee, and I come with some additional information that I felt was really important, not only for members of council, but for the public to help guide the process. So, can I go to the next slide? So here's my first slide. There is a real urgency to rebuild Banting. I know that we got the funding, the announcement was made 18 months ago. However, it is still prohibitive repair. It's in critical condition. The board keeps it safe, but it takes a lot of effort to maintain that facility. And the students need a new school as soon as possible. I cannot say enough about the extreme growth our town is having in our elementary schools. We are years behind, decades behind in building new schools, and all of that growth ends up at Banting, putting more and more pressure every year. And so any delay, even if it's just a couple months, makes an impact. Next slide, please. I want to make one thing really clear that was not clear in the previous deputation. The Simcoe County District School Board will not rebuild Banting on the current location. There's an animation. Can you push the next one? And this is why. The site is too small. It limits programming and opportunities, and that is a deal breaker for the Simcoe County District School Board. I am only one vote. Technology programming would be closed during the construction. This is another deal breaker, given the state of education. We have a trade crisis, and I don't know how much you follow educational politics, but there is a new requirement for every student graduating to take a trades course to help address this trades crisis. And so if we went to the ministry and tried to do this, that's a deal breaker. They would say no. Another reason, school would continue during construction, and this is hazardous. It's going to cause a lot of problems having our biggest school crammed on now half the space would be a nightmare. Next slide. So, to reiterate, this is not a debate over whether building on the homestead or the current location. We will not be building on the current location. So if council chooses not to partner with the school board at the homestead site, that's fine. That's politics. Then the new Banting will be built on another greenfield in New Tecumseh. We studied 15 sites. Now, I cannot discuss the details of those sites in public because they are property matters and could affect pricing and housing, and it's just not something I can do. All right? But that is what is going to happen. So the sooner we can make a decision, the better, because now all we're doing is waiting for your decision. Next slide. So why we want to partner with New Tecumseh at the homestead. So here I have a picture from Google Earth of the homestead. That little blob up in the top is the actual heritage site. So the site is large and serviced. There's room to build a modern, accessible secondary school without limiting future programming. There are a lot of synergies with the homestead. We already have lots of existing partnerships, and opportunities will grow and thrive with closer proximity, i.e. field trips. Right now, we only have walking schools that can go on field trips because the education component there doesn't take a whole day. But if it was a whole day program with other health, other fitness, kind of like a day camp sort of thing, then we could have every single student in all of Simcoe County come here for a field trip, which I think would be very beneficial. This is a huge, huge, huge piece of our heritage, and it teaches so many great skills to our students. So diabetes awareness, health sciences, fitness, science, agriculture, history, business, leadership, day camps. There is millions of possibilities, and it's hard for me to communicate with you accurately about that because I don't know what they will be, right? That takes community consultation, and that takes getting down to work. Next slide. Other reason is location is in line with the town's growth plan. So New Tecumseh has residential growth planned for the north of Homestead. So within the next, I don't know how fast we're going to build these homes faster, but it will end up being in the middle of a larger town. The move is approximately 2 kilometers. It is the greenfield with the best walkability. And I don't know if you can see here, but I've gone and made it yellow to highlight the route from the access road, one of the access roads there from the adjoining subdivision to the current Banting, and it's just under 2 kilometers. This is the closest greenfield there is to Alliston, the downtown businesses. Finally, partnership with towns are incredibly beneficial for our students. The Homestead Community Hub, recreation, community services, this is all up to you. This is your land. We just want to get it started. Historical tourism, healthcare, there is so much this town needs. And this could be really a great opportunity. And we have a duty, fiscal responsibility to bring this to you. And this is why we want to partner with you. The previous council had indicated an indication of wanting to partner with us, but I thought it was very, do you want to go to the next one? So I want to talk about an example. So this is Nottawasaga Pines Secondary School, and this is an example of a community hub, and I am happy to take you all on a tour of this community hub so you can see it. So over on the left there, we have Nottawasaga Pines Secondary School. Within there is the ESSA Public Library, as well as a Nottawasaga OPP detachment, a small detachment. They have the Angus Recreation Center that has ice and fields, and then there's a big field there. There's this lovely green space, basketball.
Sorry, Sarah, we're starting to run out of time there, so we're quite familiar with that site. But
Okay.
please, I just want you to get to.
Yep, next.
Thank you.
Okay, Flick, these are just pictures. Okay, so now I want to talk about Maple Reach Secondary School. This is our most recent build, and I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. So this is a huge thing. This is for about 2/3 of the population we're going to build for Banting. So next slide. This is an aerial view. You'll notice it has 2 fields, parking. The school is quite large. I wanted to show you these pictures to give you an idea of just how impossible it will be. It's not going to go on the current site. Next. This is another outline of it, of these, and sorry for time if you want to go. This is what I really wanted to show you, the gymnasium, because I hope that we can partner on a gym regardless of where you decide to put it and to provide more recreation. So this is their gorgeous gym. I think I just have a couple more. There we go. And the last one I think is me. Oh, there's the field. And then this is the artificial field with a full track. And that's the end. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And that's quite the bomb that's just been dropped on this council right now. And I'll go to council. I think, and this is just my comments, my initial reaction, we should have heard this from the school board sooner. Instead of coming here at our council meeting where we ratify something tonight and it get dropped on this. If you don't decide tonight, this isn't going to happen.
Oh.
That's, you know what, that's not the relationships I want to build. But anyhow, I will leave that. But I respect you and I appreciate you very much for bringing that forward.
I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just.
Well, you did say that it will not happen at the current site. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think there was 3 or 4 deal breakers that were just presented to us.
Yeah. No. But this is why I wanted to provide additional.
And I'm glad you did. And
because I didn't
appreciate
think that
coming here.
came through when my superintendent presented
I didn't hear
to
it that
you.
way, but that's just me.
Exactly, and I just wanted, and I'm sorry to be so blunt,
Appreciate the bluntness.
I just thought we needed to get that out in the air.
Sorry,
so there's
Sarah,
no
it's not
confusion.
at you. It's
No,
more,
I know.
We appreciate you bringing this tonight to telling us
Mm-hmm.
and sharing with us very candidly what's going on. So I think you might get some questions.
Okay, no problem. I'm happy to answer.
So Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share your sentiments about this bomb being dropped on us, and certainly don't appreciate feeling like we're being backed into a corner, like all of a sudden we're being rushed. Banting needed to be rebuilt when I went there, 25 years ago now. So this certainly isn't on our shoulders.
Absolutely.
There's almost, I think there's about 1,400 or 1,500 kids in Banting right now. You're building a school for 1,233 kids.
That's correct.
So the school board is very well known for building schools, and then they're at capacity a week later, and we're popping up portables all over the place.
I completely agree.
And the mayor and I will not speak for him, but I will speak for me. I was at that meeting at the school board on April 25th after a county meeting. It was a Tuesday. And those two options were presented to us very equally. There was no, I left that meeting thinking it was very equal conversation. There was no push for the homestead. There was no push for the original site. So I am very taken aback by your deputation tonight. I feel like we're getting boxed into a corner that is not fair for us to be in. We didn't take 10 years to come up with this funding. The school board did. And I don't know what has transpired since last time you had a representative here from the school board, and today, that all of a sudden there's a refusal to build on the original site. Because I will state right, I still want to hear from our committees. But I will state my opinion as from the information that I have up until this day. I don't want to see it built on the homestead. And yes, just very taken aback by all of a sudden how we got here. And like I said, our meeting with the school board, it was presented very equally. So I'm not sure what happened with this big change. And I don't feel that we're the ones that are holding up this process. It's taken a long time to get here. That's on the school board, not on us.
Thank you. But I just want to make perfectly clear, thank you, Trustee Bites. Seriously, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah.
Because we were not aware. So council, you know what, it's great that our school board trustee brought us up to speed on this. So I just want to make that perfectly clear.
Absolutely.
It's not you.
No, I know, and I appreciate. And I would just like
Like,
to
we're
talk
lucky to
about.
have you to come and bring this to us. So
And I
thank
just,
you.
nothing's really changed.
Oh, yeah, they did.
The communication has changed, and I apologize.
No, don't.
I apologize for that. I would like to explain about the process of getting school. It is very long, and we've been petitioning the government, and they've actually changed the process to expedite it so that we can have all these conversations to partner and do all this stuff. And I am no means trying to back you into a corner at all. I just am absolutely just wanted you to have this information.
We greatly appreciate, and I'm going to open up the rest of council. I just want you to know we greatly appreciate you coming.
I know it's a
And
hard
you
thing.
didn't even bring any backup. I don't see anybody with you. So
Nobody wanted to come.
Nobody wanted to come. Okay. Well, then I have even more respect to you for that. I'm just going to go around then, let's go comments and questions. And so go ahead, Councillor Gabrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So our priorities here are threefold. One is the preservation of the homestead property, the birthplace of Banting. The second is also being cognizant and responsible towards our downtown businesses. And the third is obviously getting a new high school in Alliston, not in New Tecumseth, somewhere else. So I guess I would ask, how long do we have?
It's completely up to you. There is no, and I did not mean to paint you in the corner. I was just wanted to bring this additional information as you consider. If I know that you all voted to defer and get some more vital information, and that is fine. All I wanted to do was to come here and be very blunt so that no time was wasted in advocating or discussing something that is just a deal breaker. And, you know, with all due respect to school board, they think that they told you this, and I and I felt that they didn't. And that is why I wanted to come and say it publicly. You know, I've been having various conversations with all of you, you know, and your concerns are, you know, there's lots of great debate and discussion and a great report on this. I thought it was important that you know the.
Greatly appreciate it, greatly
Sorry.
respect it, and don't be
Don't
sorry.
shoot the messenger.
No, I'm not. I was going to use that term, but no, we're not. We have, you know, I digress. Councillor, Councillor, so you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just didn't feel like I got an answer to the question.
Oh, sorry.
Which was, how long do we have? When is the school board going to make a move?
As soon as you make a decision. So we will, of course, wait on your decision because the benefits of partnering with you are so great. They will wait another 6-9 months. It's up to you. I just, you know, if we can expedite the meetings of these further committees and get the information quicker, that's all I'm asking. It's completely in your hands. And I just want you to be aware of the pressure I'm under under from all of our constituents, very anxious to get this project going and very frustrated by any delays. And so I think the due process, I think having council have a fulsome discussion of this is absolutely needed. And, you know, and I absolutely respect the will of the table. It's complete. There is no dead timeline. And I'm not trying to rush you into a decision. I just wanted to share the reality. So my best estimate from the deferral would be, based on when I was looking briefly, it would be another 6 months. I didn't want us to waste that 6 months debating the two locations.
No, thank you. Are you good, Councillor? Councillor Cox, you were next, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Norcross. You mentioned that there were 15 other sites explored. I'm sure that those sites were explored with town staff also. I'm just wondering, how do those other sites, if they do at all, negate any partnership with the municipality? And can you maybe go into some more detail about the constraints of those sites? I know that you probably are referring to servicing, but as a council, I don't think we understand what some of those constraints are or how easily maybe some of those constraints are rectified to allow for this development to happen at another site.
So absolutely, we can partner at another site. The main advantage of the homestead is you own the property. So we have to buy or lease the land for quite a bit of money. So the idea would be, you know, I would rather pay the town so that they could invest that back in the town than somewhere else. But they explored 15 sites total. The homestead, because of the servicing, has the shortest timeline of green spaces. So I can't go into this was a extensive study that literally studied every single blank piece of field anywhere in New Tecumseh, because we are growing so much and we're going to need other high schools, other elementary. There's going to be a lot of school building, and absolutely we want to partner with you on every single one of them. And it doesn't negate it. Like, the easiest way, the simplest way to partner is just simply by making the gym a little bit bigger, right? And then you guys get permitting, you can use it after hours for your programming, and then you don't have to build another rec center, right? You can and that's why I liked showing the pictures of the gym. That's just the easiest way. Absolutely, we will partner with you at any location.
Oh, sorry, follow up?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just wondering if there's an avenue or an ability, and I do understand your concerns with obviously stating publicly where those other sites were. I was wondering if there was an avenue in which the council could learn as to where those other sites are, because I want it known to everyone. I mean, I think this council is unanimously supportive of a new high school. Does that mean that it translates to having the high school at the Banting Homestead? At this point, for myself, it doesn't seem that way for me. When I look at the intent of the preservation of the homestead, the heritage designation, the fact that it is still a workable farm that we have a lease under until, I believe, 2024, 2025, that's still active. and I realize the importance of our town's heritage and having the homestead and Banting's legacy preserved as a total, as well as when we went in front of the Conservation Review Board, and the argument from our town solicitor and the town's point of argument was to designate the farm property as a whole. The importance of the farmland and the entire property in Banting's research and work into insulin is just, it's very unique to have a heritage designation that encompasses not just the buildings on a property, but the whole cultural designation of the landscape.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through to Sarah Bites, thank you for your presentation, Sarah. Some of the other councillors have articulated a number of points, so I'm not going to review them, but I will add a couple other things. You made a comment about north of the homestead. I will be surrounded by homes. I don't see Director Best here, but I believe of our 37 landowner requests, there is some additional properties to the west of that, but I don't believe we even currently have landowner requests to the north. So just in order to paint that picture, I'm a bit of a man for facts, so I just like to bring
My
that out there
apologies,
and-
I'm-
No, I
I
don't.
put
I'm not
this
saying
together
you're
quite
wrong, nor am I
quick.
saying I'm 100% right, but I just wanted to make that aware to council. Related to the community hub recreation, when Mr. Van Nisperen was here, he was asked about a pool and other community hub. That's a great term, and we've heard that term used in a couple other facilities that are either finished construction or currently under construction, and yet they never seem to materialize the way they're presented. So I have some concerns about that. As you and I spoke on the phone at length, there's also the concern about the infrastructure cost surrounding the school, i.e. roads, bridges, lights, etc., and the relationship with the town. So for that and a host of other reasons that have already been mentioned, I believe, and I'm not sure if I can respectfully request that a motion in terms of, it sounds to me as if the board is sitting on their hands with potentially 14 other sites out there waiting for an answer. So for me, as one member of this council of 10, or 9 in this particular case, because Councillor Rappin has declared an interest, I think for us to further study it through 3 additional groups will not, as much as there will be some value, there's value from every person's comments, but I think as a council we're tasked with the responsibility of making decisions. So I would respectfully suggest that put a motion out there that we say to the Simcoe County District School Board that we are not interested in dealing with the pending homestead, but we are certainly interested and have great interest in seeing a high school built in an expeditious fashion, not wide open to partnerships of varying degrees, but as you stated, they're not limited to our being on the Banting Homestead site. So I would, if I can, I would put that motion out there for council's consideration.
Okay, well, I'll look to the clerk to draw up that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? That's Councillor Cox. So I'll give the clerk a moment to put that together. Is there any other comments or questions? Thank you. Councillor Masters, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I agree with Councillor Breck's comments on the 3 items that she mentions for consideration. But one thing I wanted to say is that it's not just a piece of property we're talking here. We're talking about a school that's going to train our children for the next so many years, decades. And I think we have a student base here that's different from maybe other areas like, say, Toronto or so. So with that in mind, recently I was in Nova Scotia, and one of my nephews is attached to a big construction company down there who's been building schools, and I got a tour of schools down there, and they have a new greening program down there, which is under policy of the Nova Scotia government, that no school and no municipal building can be built outside of this new policy of greening. And their schools include nurseries, horticultural areas, and things like this. And so my question is, here we are in an agricultural society here in the middle of New Tecumseh, And what plans does this school campus have for addressing the agricultural side of who we are in this area, and plus the trades? We have Honda, who's a huge component of our town here, and the automotive trades are recognized as the most efficient right now, and probably in Canada, in Ontario for sure. What do we have in this new school planned for our trades? So I think just as important is what is going to go into the school. What kind of curriculums, what kind of structures do we need to address that in this province, in this area? I know right now the government, and I think that Ms. Betts has already said that the trades have been a mandatory part of the program for this new school. That's going to require extra area. So I think that part of how our school is going to operate is going to dictate the kind of situation it's going to be in. If that's the case, then maybe the Banting area would fit for that. And do we have a medical program in our schools for training? It's going to lead to training into the hospital corps and things like this. Is there a lead in that could be part of that? So that's important, is how the school is going to be used. I think that's the most important thing. That's what we're looking at. I think secondary is transportation and getting access to this facility. Is it going to be in a good place for that, or are there other locations in the town that are going to offer a better place for transit for students coming and going, other than that particular area there? So I think those are things that also need to be considered, not just the location of how that property is going to look and how it's going to be utilized. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Can
Councillor
I
Jacks?
Oh.
Oh, sorry. My
I
apologies.
think he had a question. May I answer?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please, Ms.
Thank
White.
you, through your worship, to Councillor Masters. All great points. So at Banting, there's this thing called the Specialist High School Major program, and we do have an agricultural program at the school already. And so that's one of the things that would limit the current site, is because we need to expand this program. There's only 2 schools in the whole board that have it. It's really quite a specialized, amazing program, and absolutely it needs to expand. When I was looking, doing a bit of research, there is down in Thorold, there's called the Greenhouse Academy, which is part of a high school, and they have great programming with elementary schools and the community. Like, they grow the trees, and then they get the kids in grade 7 and 8 to go plant them around the community, which would really go in with your streams and I'm sorry, I'm having a Okay, sorry. With other priorities that you have, there's also fundraising things. With they have these things where you grow fresh things, where you grow stuff for the cafeteria and for local businesses, where you can get this kind of like fresh pizza toppings type of things in a bucket. Anyway, they have a lot of really cool the sky's the limit. Like, I am probably not the best person to talk about all the things, because our teachers and our staff always have a million great ideas. Like, for example, with one of the great things that came out of Maple Ridge is they've started a girls' flag football league up there because of those fields. So there is just so many opportunities, and I love this council and I love this town, and I don't want to, the trades, absolutely. Trades is huge at Banting. Like, 2 types of courses that there are wait lists is our agricultural and our trades. They are bursting at the seams, and yes, we need to expand them. Hopefully, with the government, the ministry, they like to make announcements, and then there's usually a delay on how to actually do things. But I think we're going to come with a big space crunch, because if everyone has to take shop all of a sudden, we're going to need a lot more shops. And that's going to change the way the property is allowed. So I think that there is I think there's already so many great things going on at Banting, and I'm welcome to take you on a tour of the school to see all the programming. We wouldn't be, we do have the health sciences, we do have health and fitness that all go along with the Banting Homestead, and so it would be more expanding and kind of giving these more to grow. And I agree, there is a historical problem of we keep building schools that are too small because we have a 15-year lag. So this would have been a good size 15 years ago. But the reality is, as soon as we get built, I'm gonna be back here talking to you about a partnership for another secondary school. So maybe you'll get used to me delegating a lot, asking for partnerships, because I think it's just a win-win, especially with, like, we have such beautiful gyms, and then, we do have permitting, but if the town gets exclusive use of that, then it expands the offerings for the citizens. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question,
No, I
Councillor
think you,
Masters.
no, I think you did.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
I think you did. Is there any other comment or question? Go ahead, Councillor Jacks.
Thank you, through your worship, to Ms. Betts? No,
Bites.
To find, Bites, sorry, to find, I think we've all called you Betts, sorry.
Yeah,
I
no, it's
apologize.
okay. Bites, but I don't bite, I promise.
And I apologize that we haven't been able to connect prior to then, so forgive me for, sometimes I wasn't at the last meeting, and sometimes I just like things explained to me like I'm a 3-year-old. So, for the record, this is the only viable piece of town-owned land that the board could build this school on.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know all the land that the town owns.
Yeah, can I
Yeah,
interject for a
please.
second? I think the answer to that, this is and you can change it, would be it's the preferred choice of the land that is owned by the municipality, and the school board also has the opportunity to go into private land ownership and purchase that. So their preference is to work with the town. I would assume you use the word partnerships a lot. I mean, I'm sure that's synonymous with us paying a lot.
No.
Because I know how the partnerships work, but
I
anyhow.
want to pay you.
No. But just to clarify, of the town-owned, it's your preference, I think. Is that a fair statement, Ms. Bites?
Yes, that is
Okay.
that was the result of the ridiculously long study that they did for all these 15
Sorry,
properties.
Councillor Jacks, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the clarification. Supplementary to that would be, again, so I'm crystal clear, whose preference? It's the board's preferred location or our town's preferred location?
I'll go to Ms. Bites, but
That would be the board's staff recommendation to board. So like you being one vote on a council, I am one vote on the school board. So, and I can tell you, I've been talking to my fellow trustees as much as I've been talking to all of you, even more. And those deal breakers I listed will never make building on the current site ever allowed. And I just want to make sure you understand.
and we appreciate you. That. We appreciate that. Councillor Jacks, go
Thank
ahead.
you so much. Got it. Crystal clear. We're not building on the existing footprint.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's good. I guess where I am interested in understanding is, from the town's perspective, and perhaps, Mayor, I would go through you to CAO Parkin and staff, is building on the homestead the best location in the interest of the people of New Tecumseth? And the caveat to that, or the aspect that I'm looking at or trying to consider it through, is the compromise to the historic site and land. And from what I can tell, not being an expert by any means, but from what I can understand, it seems as though if this is the preferred location from the staff, that the access to the school, albeit a 2-kilometer walk, which is not an outrageous walk. People from Banting walk to McDonald's all the time on a sidewalk with lights that direct them across streets. And So if the infrastructure, if there's going to be additional infrastructure that is required to create safe access and mobilization for people walking to this school and accessing it by foot, is that in line with the strategy of our multimodal mobilization plan, master plan? So hence, that's just another reinforcement as to why this location would be, under staff's direction, make the best sense, be the best location for this school. Or is there other locations that we can't talk about, or maybe we can? Maybe that's the other green space that we can't talk about. Like, I guess I'd like to know what the staff's position is on what is in the best interest of this town, realizing that none of these locations seem to be perfect, but weighing out immediate, short-term, long-term impact on the community and those that need to access it. And then my comment, and then I'll just turn off my microphone, Mayor, is we did bring it up at the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting before they received the report, or it was deferred to the committees, what I observed and heard was a lack of support for the homestead. So I just want to say that for the record. And number 3, my last statement is, as it pertains to community partnerships, a large gymnasium is really cool, but you know what's really cool? A pool. So I'd love to know specifically, and just how much of a partner does the board want to be with the town in line with this community hub? That was a rhetorical comment.
Okay,
but I would like to know as well.
Ms. Bites, you're not obligated to answer the pool question. I'm going to look to the CAO, just you know, I mean, thank you, Mr. CEO. I mean, sorry, this was, I don't think we were anticipating this discussion tonight at all. So I look to you for some guidance.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Jacks and members of council. There are a few questions in there, Councillor Jacks. Wow. First is my disclaimer. So town staff haven't done anywhere near, obviously, the studies that the school board has done with respect to future growth in, with respect to demands on schools. Obviously, our staff have done a tremendous amount of work with respect to future growth, but not with respect to the need or the ultimate location or the best location for a new secondary school. So certainly a lot of issues that council is considering with respect to not only servicing that growth, potential impact on businesses, although I'm a firm believer that if you approached, and this is just my opinion, so if you approached the potential for what that current piece of property provides to the town of New Tecumseh, the community of Alliston, and the businesses of Alliston, if you approached it with a broader vision of a longer term vision in mind, I think you'd find that you would actually not only support the current businesses, but you would see a tremendous growth in future businesses in the area, recognizing what that current piece of property could be. Obviously a substantial piece of property in an area where we would love to see pretty significant revitalization. That could be a pivotal piece of property for spurring that type of revitalization on. You want to have business in your downtown, you want to revitalize your downtown, you want to ignite your downtown, you have to have people living in your downtown. So that piece of property could be that spark that you'd need. So yes, would there be an impact on current businesses? Yes, but my own opinion is the potential vastly outweighs the impact that moving the high school could result in. With respect to preserving the legacy of the Banting homestead itself, I think members of council have that's obviously a significant issue that needs to be weighed out. We haven't really turned our minds to that, but it really comes down to is there a way to preserve it with constructing on it? that's a question. And I think there's a number of things that come to mind when you think about that architecturally. Council's going to consider urban design guidelines later this week. There's certainly things that can be done to preserve heritage without staying the same, if you follow what I mean. There are certain things that we can do. There's a lot of things that we can do to preserve things without just staying status quo, but preserving the heritage. But again, that's up to council's consideration, and certainly not an easy discussion. Starting to run out of things that you hit upon, Councillor Jack, so if there's something that I missed, then please let me know, and I'm more than happy to provide some thoughts on it.
Yeah, please, and then I'll make a comment.
To me, it's around, do we have in the 2-kilometer jaunt from, say, the current location to that place, the infrastructure, so road width, sidewalks, parking, the mobilization aspect of this, I am really out of, it's out of my wheelhouse. The sentiment that I'm hearing from peers and colleagues and in conversation is, it is not a walkable location, a safe walkable location in its current form. So I guess my question would be, who would pay for the infrastructure that would then create it being walkable? Because I can't imagine, even with staff not having fully, diverted their attention to this feasibility yet, I can't imagine the big new high school and its walkability not being part of the multimodal transportation or mobilization plan.
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross, through you to Councillor Jacks. Thank you, Councillor Jacks. Yeah, I think off the top of my head, I think there would have to be some investment in infrastructure, certainly, to extend, sidewalks, or you mentioned road widths. I'm not sure that would be, a requirement, but certainly the pedestrian or the walkability element would certainly have to be enhanced, I would think, fairly significantly. But again, there has been some members of council touch upon the future growth plans of the town. Mr. Hoppy and I were just looking at some of the, what do we call them, Bruce? Landowner requests. There are a number in that area, a couple to the north of that area, some to the east of that area. So if those, seem to move through, then there would certainly be a logical extension of infrastructure to service those areas, both from roadways or walkability and as well as other types of servicing. But I think that would be something that would have to be looked into, but off the top of my head, I can fairly comfortably say that certainly the walkability element would have to be fairly significantly expanded, I would think. With respect to the various properties itself, again, off the top of my head, I do not believe the town owns any other properties of that size that they would be looking at. And correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Bites, but I think the school board's looking at about 20 acres. To put that in perspective, the current site is about 12. So the town certainly doesn't own any other spaces in this area of that size.
Okay. Mr. CEO, thank you, and I know you're on the cuff with some of these answers. I know that, and I want to say thank you very much. So, council, you're daunted with two tasks tonight. So, one, we have a motion that's been duly moved and seconded that we can vote on and decide whether we're going forward with that site, or if as long as you're clarified and you have the clarity that you need to make that decision, then we can go forward. If you're looking for more information because of, how quick it was brought upon you, we could recess it for 2 weeks. So I just, I want to put that out there. And as the trustee had stated, was that, we do have time to get back a response. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear and I give everybody the opportunity to, if you do require more time. So I'm just looking around. I really don't see much reaction. Sorry. 100%. And I just want to clarify, make sure I'm fine. Sorry, my cousin. So I have a motion duly moved by Councillor Foster, duly seconded by Councillor Cox. You're still good? Okay, so I'm going to call, is there any comment, question on that motion? Because I'm going to call the vote. Sorry, Councillor Best, yeah,
Thank
that's,
you, Your Worship. Just to clarify, so if this vote passes, then we will deny we'll reject the application or the request to use the Banting Memorial Homestead. And then my question then through you, Your Worship, to Trustee Bites is, you lose the site, what do you do next?
Okay, so I just, to preface, I did not, I just wanted you to have all the information while you made your deliberations. I just didn't want anyone wasting any time. So the next step is that we would go out to all the landowners and start negotiations to buy property for the land, for the high school, because that's typically what they do. I don't
Okay.
know exactly.
no, thank you. Just follow up, Councillor Best.
Thank you, Your
And then
Worship.
I'll have the
Just-
clerk read the motion.
No, that's just the last question. So, I guess it's $42 million. Is that correct? That's how much the province is allowed for? Am I right?
That's correct. So that is just the building proper. There is
Right.
also, we also have to buy the land.
Right.
And then part of the process is once we get the design done and everything, we go back to the province and tell them what it actually costs. For example, with the new elementary school.
Thank you.
Nope.
I can just tell council really wants to get to the end. So just, I don't mean to be rude, but through your worship, so basically 42 million for the building, and then if there's more money required, you can go back to the province and ask for more money. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the
Okay,
process.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Best. Can I look to the clerk now to read the motion, if you would, please? Sorry, Madam Clerk.
That's okay. Be it resolved that report number PD 2023-29 be received, and further that the deputations of Deborah Walker, President, Sir Frederick Banting Legacy Foundation, and Letchen McKirk, Alliston Business Improvement Association be received, and further that council confirms it is not supportive of building the new high school at the Banting Homestead, and further that council supports building the new high school in an expeditious fashion and continuing to look for partnerships with the town and community.
Thank you. So, once again, moved by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Cox. All those in favor of the motion, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That carries. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bites. Okay, so we're moving on to bylaws. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Bylaw to appoint a municipal law enforcement officer as authorized on the provisions of the Police Services Act, which is 2023-074, 2023-075, a bylaw to establish site plan control areas in the town of New Tecumseh, 2023-076, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2021-128 of the town of New Tecumseh. And Councillor Rappin, welcome back. To address items, you were gone so long I forgot you were gone. I apologize. To address items to assist with the implementation of the recently approved comprehensive zoning bylaw, including adding, amending, and deleting provisions and/or definitions, and making grammatical and spelling updates applicable to all lands within the town of New Tecumseh. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Biss, Councillor Jacks, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. General information announcements. I'm looking around. I'm not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cox.
My apologies. Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I just wanted to announce that September 15th to the 17th, coming up, the Beaton Agricultural Society is proud to present one of the oldest agricultural fall fairs in Canada. Celebrating 166 years is the Beaton Fall Fair, which provides a great family weekend for everyone. With exhibits, demonstrations, competitions, and rides. And it is going to be a great fair this year. Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome, and thank you for bringing that up. It was going to go out to council this week. Opening ceremonies, I believe, is 7 o'clock at the baseball diamonds at the main park there. And I think the judging, just so you know, Councillor Rappin has won numerous ribbons in the baking categories. Yeah, and the homemade preserves. Oh, have you? Okay, no, it's just, I just wanted to point that out. So, anyhow, so no, thank you for that. So public notice, just so, I just finished that. Sorry, Councillor Bess, you're right. You're first.
Thank you, Worship. So just, it's going to be a very busy weekend. We're all going to be in Beaton, and then hopefully we can find some time on Saturday, September the 16th. We have the Grand Parade. Contact Community Services is holding the first ever Grand Parade to raise money for Contact, actually for seniors. Registration begins at 10. Registration starts at 10. The walk begins at 11. We have a team put together here on council. We call it Contact Your Counselor. So far, we are in third place in raising money. And we're leaving, and I basically promised that we were going to win. So I'm looking forward to the other counselors providing some additional pledges so that we can ensure that we win. I don't like to lose or come second because that's the first loser. I want to win. So just something to take note. Thank you, Your Worship.
I just took note. You're very competitive, sir. Okay, so thank you. Any other general information or announcements? Councillor Gabrick, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The South Simcoe Arts Council is also hosting its Art on Main exhibit. That is in the businesses of the downtown cores in New Tecumseth, and that is now running until October the 5th. They are also hosting their Good Vibrations art show and exhibit at the Gibson Center, which is now on until October the 24th. And then just one other thing, which I should have brought up earlier in the meeting, was I want to give out a very heartfelt congratulations to Sylvia Pedrezzi of the South Simcoe Streams Network. Sylvia has just retired from her position as our environment liaison after a very long and successful career with the council or with the committee. So I just wanted to wish her all the best in her future endeavors.
She finally retired. I remember when we were in Rotary in the late 1990s, making her vats of chili for all her volunteers for coming after the planting. And here we are, like 3 decades later, and good for her. Wow, what an accomplishment. Any other announcements? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So public notice, this Wednesday at 6 p.m., there's a Committee of the Whole working meeting scheduled, September 13th at 2023. So put that out there. So we still have one item that we have to deal with, and we're going to go into closed session. So we have a motion be resolved that council convene into closed meeting at 7:42 p.m. And we're going to discuss the following item: Traffic Advisory Committee citizen appointments. As per the Municipal Act, Section 2392B, personal matter, but an identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. And just to be completely clear here, all we're doing is appointing the citizen reps onto this committee. Okay, so a mover and a seconder, Councillor Foster, Councillor Rappin, please. All those in favor? Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll call 5 minutes then, please, and we can clear the gallery. And we'll come back and we'll convene into our closed session. Thank you.
No, if you, yeah, if you want to read the yellow page.
I'm sorry, thank you, Chief. Would you need me to repeat that into the microphone, or are we okay? I think we're okay? All right, thank you. So we're moving directly into the Committee of the Whole meeting. So I'm going to look for confirmation of the agenda. We have a recommendation that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting held on September 11th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Moved by Councillor Bess, seconded by Councillor Harrison McIntyre. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Any members of Council have a pecuniary interest and the reason thereof? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Council. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. I'm going to look to the clerk to identify items for separate discussion and the reason thereof. Madam Clerk, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no items requiring separate discussion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to look at Council. Is there any items for Council to identify for separate discussion? I'm not seeing any. Thank you. I'm going to look to the members of the public to identify. Oh, sorry. Okay, so CW 52. Members of the public to identify items for separate discussion. I'm not seeing anybody. I'm going to go to clerk now to summarize all items identified for separate discussion. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. CW 52 Development Agreement, Honey Hill Subdivision, external work on CW Leach Road and 14th Line.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I'm going to go to adoption of all items not requiring separate discussion. Recommendation that all items not identified for separate discussion be received, and the recommendations therein be recommended to Council for adoption. Is there a mover and a seconder? Please, Councillor Bess, Councillor Jacks, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no Council items or Committee of the Whole items. Now, the one item that was pulled was item CW 52 that was pulled by Councillor Foster. Councillor Foster, the item is yours, please.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Just quickly, for this subdivision agreement, I couldn't help when I read the key findings. The developer acknowledges that no water allocation is available for their development until the improvements to the Collingwood treatment plant are complete and additional water supply to the town becomes available. The onus is on the developer to advise and notify the purchaser in the subdivision if there is any delay in subdivision progress because of the water allocation. I'm sure everyone on this council would, listening to that or reading that, would say, is there anything more that the municipality, and I understand all the legal aspects, and I also understand, and I firmly believe that it's buyer beware. But clearly buyer beware does not apply in today's world because they buy houses, they come back and they make deputations legitimately to this council and say, why did you not notify us? So all I could come up with, and I'm not the most creative individual in the world, is forcing them to put a sign up there that says this development, like you see all over the city, that says this is in the flight path for the Toronto airport. Please beware. So to me, I don't think it's difficult to put it up and say this development is subject to water allocation, to them receiving water allocation from the town, and that your purchase may not close till 2026 or be affected by that. Why not? I'm not suggesting it be adversarial. I'm just saying is that you want notification, and to put it in agreement It'll be a 100-page agreement. It'll be buried deep on page 66, which nobody will read, and in 4 years we'll have the same problem. So since we know we've had a problem, and we don't have to have a crystal ball to see the future, why don't we as council do something about it? That's my only suggestion, but I will put it out there for the consumption of the rest of council. Let's not go down the same road.
Well, before I go to the rest of the council, I'd look to the CAO. Do you have a comment on that, or so that's
Mayor Norcross, through you to members of committee, no actually direct comments. I completely understand Councillor Foster's thoughts on it. It certainly wouldn't hurt to try and make it as blatantly obvious as possible.
okay? Thank you. Are there any other comments, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I very much agree with what Councillor Foster just proposed. The only thing I think I would not like to see on that sign is a specific date. Otherwise, I very much agree with this.
So I would just maybe we could get an update then, because this is committee. It will come back. Director Vatry, did you want to speak to that, or?
Through your worship to council, council can make, our committee can make recommendations on the agreement. That's why it's brought to them. So if there is a recommendation to have that added to it, we can add a clause accordingly to it. And there would be an additional information memorandum at the next council meeting to identify what that clause states.
Councillor Foster, are you moving that?
Well, I would just like to simplify it and say that this council directs staff to work with the developer to come up with adequate on-site signage indicating that this property is subject, in whatever wording you choose, suggesting to people, and of an acceptable font that you don't need a magnifying glass and walk right up to the sign, and on the disclaimer of the bottom that says for sale for $7.95. So you know what I think. You know what I'm asking. If that's the wish of council.
Do you want to second that? Go ahead. Comment, please.
So I would definitely like to second that. Also, I'm wondering, is there a way that we can make this permanent for all development coming forward? There could be more. Is there a policy we can write this into? And I'm wondering how would this affect other development areas that also don't have water? Like, is it too late to require this signage put up there as well? Does this have to be sort of a going forward situation? And can we incorporate this permanently while we're in flux with water allocation?
Sorry, Director Vatry, did you?
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, council can give direction to staff at this point because there is a limited number of agreements that would be coming forward with respect to these types of developments, and as such, you can entrench it into the agreement saying that you will put up a signage, and we'll come up with some standardized text with respect to sizing, location of the sign. Again, we don't want it to, Councillor Foster's point, small text or in the back corner. We want it up front and prominent and be clear to what it says. We'll come up with some appropriate text. And I would suggest to council that we bring this forward as part of all future agreements. With respect to going back to agreements that are already in place, it is a challenge, and we would need some agreement from the developers. However, if a developer is at a particular stage in their development, we could reach out to them. Again, whether they agree or not would be up to them.
So, but going forward, we can certainly put this. Okay, thank you. And I guess that'll come back in the future in the 2 weeks. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion duly moved and go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, through you. I was just wondering, I know that yours is probably site-specific to where the development is going. I'm wondering if it would be possible to look into posting something along the same lines at the actual sales office. I do know that we require certain stuff to be posted at the sales office. I'm wondering if it would be beneficial to also have that posted in any of the sales offices also.
Sorry, I'll get an answer. Director Vatry.
Through your worship to Councillor Cox, I'm hesitant to answer that because if the sales agreements are already in place, I don't think retroactively we could ask council or we could direct the developer to go back and put amendments on it. However, going forward, it could be something we could put in there. Perhaps we could also make it clear in this agreement that, and in future ones, that as part of the purchase and sale agreements, there needs to be a clause in there identifying with respect to what's happening with the water, with its timing, potential timing. but again, it can't be retroactive, it can be going forward.
Okay, Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Do you think that this will have any impact with our relationship with our developers? Because it's their objective to sell those lands and to pass along that information. Is it really our place to be posting those signs? And will it damage our future relationships?
Thank you for those comments. I'll go to Councillor Foster then.
Thank you. Through yourself to Councillor Gabrick, I think that's a valuable point, but I don't think we're out here trying to not encourage them to sell houses. I think, from my perspective, is that people look at the town as ultimately it will fall back onto, why am I in this boat, which occupies town staff and occupies town time. So I think we want to work with the developer to not say we're trying to discourage homes. We're just saying to people is, and quite frankly, at this point in time, if you were to buy a house and it wasn't closing for 2 or 3 years, you'd probably be some happy because rates are up at 6.5%. So I think that if it's portrayed in the right way, which I have all the faith in staff that it will be presented in a way that's not saying, don't buy here. It's just saying, please just be aware. And all the signs in Toronto for the airport, they're on, you see them all the way from Toronto all the way out past Mavis Road and Mississauga Road. They're not there to say, you're scaring you. We're just saying is when you're sitting in your backyard, you're in the flight path. So I think it's the presentation, and I thought about that when I was thinking about this over the weekend, but I don't think it's a big concern, and I don't think developers will see it this way, because that's not the way we'll present it. That's just my thought, not that it's right or wrong, just a thought.
You okay with that? Thank you. I'm sure we'll make it professional. Absolutely. So if there's no other comments or questions in regards to this issue, I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Council. So I still have to read the recommendation. So that's that report number ENG-2023-17 be received. For that a bylaw be enacted authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement with 6314 Allison Developments, Inc. to facilitate the construction and urbanization of C.W. Leach Road and installation of the stormwater infrastructure on 14th line in the community of Allison, substantially in the form of attachment number 3 to engineering report number ENG-2023-17, all subject to the town solicitor final clearance. Councillor Foster, you moving that? Seconder, Councillor Jacks. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Council. Public notices. I have no public notices for tonight, so I'll be moving on to adjournment. And I have it that the committee of the whole meeting is September 11, 2023, adjourned at 8:23. Thank you. I'm moving to seconder, please. Councillor Gabrick, Councillor Cox, all those in favor? Council, that's carried. Thank you, Council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, members of the public. Have a great evening.